The advice and opinions expressed by the host of Autism Live and her guests are meant solely as suggestion and should not be in any way construed as child-specific advice. The Center for Autism and Related Disorders advises working with a board-certified behavior analyst who has experience with autism before starting any intensive behavioral intervention. Any choices you make in determining your child's treatment are completely at your own discretion.
Good morning and welcome to Autism Live. I'm Shannon Penrod and we are webcasting to you live from the Center for Autism and Related Disorders headquarters in Tarzana, California. It's Wednesday. I love Wednesday. We've got a very exciting show planned for you. In just a few minutes, we're going to be joined by Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh. She's going to answer your questions live on the show. In our second hour, Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy, our wonderful co-host Nancy Alspaugh-Jackson is under the weather and we've asked her to get some rest today, so she won't be here. But we do have a wonderful filmmaker who is here to talk about an independent film that's called The Odd Way Home. It features, one of its main characters is a young man who is on the autism spectrum. It's a lovely film. I've had the opportunity to view it, and we're going to be joined by the director and co-writer of the film in that second hour. We'll also cover some in the news, some breaking news, things that everybody's talking about. So stick with us for that. But we like to remind you that this entire show is meant to be interactive. We want you to participate. We want you to be a part of the conversation. So Kelby's going to show you some of the different ways that you can participate and watch the show and ask questions. While he's doing that, I'm going to remind you that our homepage is autism-live.com. When you go there, so many things to do. New blog, I'd love to get your opinion about it, talking about autism and all of the R words that can be very emotional surrounding autism right now in this space and time. So take a look at that and let us know what you think about that. Also, some recipes are featured on that blog as well. But on the homepage itself, you can be watching the live show or a recently recorded live show so that you can catch up on all things that are happening in the autism community. Now, to the side of where you can be watching the show, there are a series of white boxes. That's our interactive feature. You can put your cursor in the one that says your question, start typing, hit enter, and it will show up here on our screen. It really is that simple. You don't have to log in. There is no username. There is no password. It's completely free. It's completely anonymous. Now, that's a wonderful thing. We want you to have your anonymity, but if you want us to get back to you, then please include a way for us to get in touch with you, either a phone number or an email address, even a snail mail address, so that we can get back to you. Otherwise, we don't know where you are, who you are, and that's all well and good. We don't need to in a lot of cases. But when you do write in, I always encourage you to write in and tell us what the biggest major city is, at least, so that we can give you an idea of what services might be close to you. Because unfortunately, it isn't the same in all places around the world. We work towards that to level the playing field. But until then, give us an idea of where you are in the world. We hope that you will participate with us. And by the way, here at the beginning of the year, we want to remind you that our little show, I call us the little show that could, we continue to grow in leaps and bounds, but we hope that more people can hear the information that we're offering for free here. So please, if you like what you find here, and so many of you write and say that you do, share it with other people. Let them know about this resource that they can be using. All right? Sounds like a deal for me. In any case, it is time now for Ask Dr. Doreen.
Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh is the
Dr. Doreen is an expert in autism.
Doreen Granpeesheh.
Dr. Granpeesheh.
Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh.
Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh is a visionary in the field of autism. Now you can ask her questions on Ask Dr. Doreen. Welcome to Ask Dr. Doreen, and we welcome Dr. Doreen Grampichet.
Good morning.
Good morning, and so thrilled to be here with you. This is a wonderful hour in which I feel so privileged because I get to sit in and hear what you have to
Thank you,
say.
Sharon. It's a fun hour for me, too.
Well,
thank you very much.
It's wonderful. I learned so much because during this hour, you answer people's questions that they write in live. We like to remind everybody that Dr. Grampichet is a true expert in the field of autism.
I don't know about that, but I've been around for a long
you
time.
aren't an expert in this field, and I don't know who would be.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I think if we looked up autism expert in the dictionary, there is a picture of you.
That would be good.
And you know that if it isn't, it should be that way. So, and you have been working in this field for a long time. And you have helped so many of our individuals on the spectrum: children, adolescents, teenagers, and adults. You are such a wonderful resource, and you truly are. I think because of all that experience and because of who you are, a visionary in this field, that you're able to see what this community needs, sometimes ahead of the game, which I think is remarkable. You're a gift to all of us.
Thank you very much. No, it's you live something that long. I'm going on 33 years of autism, and it's just that's all you really know, and it's also the only thing that interests me. You know, so I'm like always
it's a subject
reading
you're
about
very
autism.
passionate about.
I am very passionate
and
about
very
it.
knowledgeable about, and you care deeply about everyone.
I care a lot about
all of the different elements of it: the parents, the individuals themselves, and every aspect about it. From early childhood through going to school and work. I see you working very passionately in all those fields. And that is a gift. We do have to tell everybody, though, at the start of the show that as much of an expert as you are, no one in this format can give individual specific advice. It just isn't possible. It would be a disservice to the individual. But having said that, when people write in with information, you're able to give them an idea of the realm of what might be going on, some things to look into, and how maybe to take the next steps. And that is a huge, huge gift.
Thank you very much. Yeah, so we hope to just give people some guidance and hold your hand while you find the resources.
Because, I always say, together we can do this, right?
Absolutely.
This is the thing, stick together. All right, so I'm going to delve right in here. We have questions that come in lots of different formats on our live feature, on our Facebook, through email.
Great.
So I'm going to delve into one that has come in on our Facebook. Somebody wrote in and says, when it comes to behaviors, what behaviors should we be understanding of in a child with autism, and what behaviors should we handle? Should we handle as we would a neurotypical child? Is it ever okay to let negative behaviors go?
What a fantastic
Isn't it?
question. Yeah, that's a fantastic question. It really is, because I see both sides of that often. I see parents who, just because the child has the label of autism, they allow so many things to go that they shouldn't, you know, so they're very, very lenient because they just feel sorry for their child. And then I also see parents who are like nitpicky about every single thing. And I'm the one saying, this is very typical for his age, just leave it alone, So that's a very, very good question. And I would say, this is sort of the brief answer, and this is what I tell parents, is treat your child the way you would like them to be in terms of, when I started saying this with parents many years ago where they were spoiling the child. And I was like, don't do this. If you expect your child to be recovered, to be functioning normally, then treat him as you would a typically developing child. So the same answer applies here in the sense that your child's capabilities. Obviously, you're not going to get mad at a child who can't express themselves well because their language is delayed, right? Mm-hmm. But I reiterate this numerous times, the behaviors, the challenging behaviors that we see in our kids are not part of the symptoms. They're not required to be there if you have autism. They're a side effect. They're sort of a result of frustration. So as long as you've given your child a different way to communicate, and you know that they know how to do that, but they still choose the more challenging path, then treat them like you would your other children or any typically developing child. And, you know, the other side is true as well. If you have situations where it's very impossible or very difficult for you to deal with a situation, just let it go. Pick your battles at the same time. I have had myself with my children who are typically developing. I have scenarios where, I mean, I had with my youngest many where, you know, you'd be out in public and there's so many other things you're dealing with that you can't actually deal with the child the way you would if you were home, for instance. And it is what it is. You just deal with it and keep moving.
You know, every week we have a topic for the week, our overreaching topic that we try to touch on, and this week it's setting priorities.
Right.
And I think that's what this comes down to,
Right.
is setting priorities. But as you were talking, I was thinking about, because I have been on both sides of this equation, and I'm still on both sides of this equation daily.
Yeah.
Trying to pick, you know, what do we focus on? What do we not focus on? What's the priority in this moment? But I think the biggest gift that ABA has given me as a parent was that it empowered me to know that if there is a challenging behavior, I can target that behavior and I can change it. I can make progress.
Right, absolutely.
And once I knew that, then I got to be in the space of, okay, but is this the behavior that I want to change right now? Is this important? Is it appropriate?
Is this the battle I want to pick?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But knowing that empowerment of knowing I can change this behavior if I want to target it, if I want to take certain steps and measures and clear other decks and say, this is the thing I want to work on, just knowing that on a daily basis and knowing that for the last, 8 years, I guess, gives me the ability to breathe.
Yes.
As a parent.
The more knowledge you have, the more, you can relax about things because you know how to handle the situation. Absolutely.
And I think so many parents, part of the issue becomes is that when you don't feel like you can change a behavior, that is a desperate clawing feeling, and
it is.
You feel like you don't have any power.
It's fear.
Yeah.
It's when you don't. It's like you don't. You've entered a very scary world, and you don't even know how to get your child out of it. That's what it is. It's fear. And I think I agree with you. It's my frustration even now with my kids who are teenagers. It's a different thing. So it's like you get fearful when they have, and especially for me as a behavior analyst and a clinical psychologist and their mom. So if they have an issue and I don't know how to solve it or how to move forward or how to help them or so on, I will have fear. I know that in myself, and I will panic and I'll be upset and depressed and whatever it is because I can't quite, I don't have the path.
Right.
ABA gives you the path. It does. It allows you to plan and move forward. And I just want to say, sometimes the challenging behaviors of our kids are so severe that, or so repetitive, so intense in terms of, it's all day long and that sort of thing, that it's just overwhelming and we feel like, well, I know how to handle it, but I can't do this intervention every single moment. Mm-hmm. And it's like anything else. Yesterday I took the day off because I had to do a million things at home, and it was like one of those ridiculous days, where I interviewed about 10 housekeepers, and had phone people there, and I had deliveries and grocery deliveries and dry clean. I mean, it was like the craziest day ever. But I thought to myself, it all went well because for some reason I had it sort of scheduled and planned and under control, and Greg was there and he helped and that sort of thing. But with autism, sometimes it hits a parent and you don't have any resources. You don't have any friends who can help. You don't have anyone else, and all of a sudden it's your life. And like anything else, you kind of need to get help. Like you really do. I mean, sometimes I feel like yesterday, for instance, there's no way I could have been the one dropping the kids off and picking the kids up because I had all these other things and Greg was there. Yeah. So you need to make sure that if you have situations that are like all day long, and in terms of ABA, everything is all day long because you want to be consistent. Get help.
Yeah.
Ask for friends to come help. Ask for neighbors. Ask for family to just spend some time helping you and giving you a little bit of time where you're not in charge.
Yeah.
Like that's the biggest thing I fear for my families, for the parents, because I feel like the moms, like it's, huge what you have to go through. And honestly, Shannon, sometimes you heard me say this to Card today. I feel like it's not just what, you know, our therapists do is not just help in the terms of clinical. Sometimes our therapists are important to the families because they are that the other people in that lifeboat.
Oh, yeah.
You know, they're just your support system.
Absolutely. We get
Yeah.
attached to them. They
Yeah.
become part of our family.
Yeah.
You know, there are still therapists that worked with us that I consider family.
Absolutely.
All these years later. And I appreciate everything that you're saying. And I also want to remind people that in the beginning, when you have a bunch of behaviors and it just seems so overwhelming.
Yes.
Remember that you can't do everything all at the same time.
And you don't want to.
Pick something.
Absolutely.
Pick something to make your battle, as you were saying, picking the battles. And it's amazing. It seems like, and we have one parent that writes in on a regular basis that I so relate to, because she says, I don't think we're going to get there. There's too many things. He's still so far behind. I don't think we're going to get there. And I always think, oh, we are related. We were cut
Yes.
from the same bolt of cloth, because I worried about that too. And yet, you know, the image that somebody told me was when you go to climb a mountain and you're standing, and I know that there are some people right now, even today, that are finishing climbing the most unscalable mountain this morning. But when you stand at the bottom of the mountain
Yeah.
and look up, it's insurmountable.
Yep.
But once you're climbing up, you can't always see the peak while you're climbing the mountain, but every step you take gets you closer there.
Absolutely.
And to remember to focus on the path, not the peak, once you know where you're going.
That's absolutely right. And what a great point. I mean, and you mentioned just today, for instance, there are parents today who received a diagnosis of recovery, you know, and they 3, 4, 5 years ago were where some other parents are today, which is, I just got my diagnosis, what the heck am I going to do?
Yeah.
So, you know, it is definitely a mountain you can climb. You just need to get your resources.
Yeah, one step at a time. Okay, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we've had a series of questions that have come in both on the live feature and through email of people who have been asked to get a secondary diagnosis. Their child was diagnosed before under the previous criteria, and now they're being asked to get a corroborating diagnosis. So Dr. Grandpichet is going to answer those questions and those concerns with the best possible advice that there is. Stick with us.
Hi guys, welcome back to Smarty. This month we're going to be creating recycled crayons to help us make some scratch art. While we work on this awesome activity, you'll notice that these icons will pop up. These icons tell you important information about the skills we're using and where to find them on the Skills program. Skills is an ABA-based online tool that helps parents create curriculum for the children that are on the autism spectrum. And if you're already a Skills user, you're going to get the most out of this fun activity. Well, let's get started. Materials you'll be needing are old crayons, muffin tins, white cardstock, painter's tape, paintbrush, black tempera paint, laundry detergent, shallow bowls, and some barbecue skewers. Inevitably, anytime my niece comes over and we draw, we end up with a bunch of broken crayons. No problem. I'm going to take these broken crayons today and we're going to peel off the paper. Once they're peeled, you're going to place them in a muffin tin or some small container, and you're going to have the oven preheat to 150. You're going to put the crayons in there, and they're going to melt for about 15 to 20 minutes. As you wait for your recycled crayon to cool, now it's time to prep your cardstock. You're going to take your painter's tape and you're going to line the 4 sides with it. Now that my recycled crayon has cooled, I'm going to have my child fill in the cardstock, leaving no corner left unfilled with the crayon. I'm going to take my black tempera paint and put it in a small bowl with a little bit of laundry detergent. I'm going to mix that together. Then you're going to have your child paint over their crayon drawing. You want to make sure it's completely covered in paint. Let it dry and do a few more coats if necessary, if you can still see the crayon underneath. I've been really patient and now the paint is finally dry. I'm going to take my bamboo skewer and draw a picture on here. You're going to use your bamboo skewer to scratch away the black paint to reveal the colorful crayons that we used underneath. This is a time for your child to get as imaginative as they'd like. Here's my completed picture. I hope you had fun creating one on your own with your kids. Well, until next time guys, craft on. Bye. To find more about Skills and to access all of the lessons you saw in today's Smarty, visit skillsforautism.com and click on the parents icon. Skills, the online autism solution.
Welcome back to Autism Live. We're here for Ask Dr. Doreen. Dr. Doreen Grandpichet is here and she's answering your questions live on the show. Now, I mentioned before the break, we've had several questions come in on the live feature and in our email and even on Facebook of parents being concerned that at the end of this last year, they were asked to get a corroborating diagnosis. The question has come in many different ways. This most recent one, we are required a confirmation of a previous diagnosis of autism spectrum disorder. Please kindly recommend the best option to secondarily confirm the given diagnosis. But we've had that come in at least 45 different ways.
Yeah. And, it's been a while now. I mean, once a diagnostic, and okay, so to answer some of those parents who are asking about this sort of thing, it is a gray area, but having said that, in the DSM-5, it actually states that they will, a diagnosis of DSM-4 will be honored, should be honored.
Yeah, we were all hearing grandfathered, that we'd all be grandfathered in and it would not be in question.
However, having said that, over a period of time, you ultimately have to kind of adjust to the new criteria. So I'm trying to think of a simile in life or something like that. And it's like, let's say so here's a good example. This is actually a great example for those of you who are iPhone users. So if you're an iPhone user, you can keep going on your current iPhone settings, right? But every once in a while, they do this annoying thing which requires an update.
Right.
And you can ignore that and not do your update, but as more and more time goes on, you fall behind because more and more features become unavailable to you because you haven't done the update. And things start to get screwed up.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like getting an update when you do your DSM-5. There's some things that are different. And honestly, although a lot of people had negative thoughts about DSM-5, mine were all pretty positive because, for instance, it is the first time ever that we acknowledge the existence of sensory issues in autism. This is the first time in the history of autism that one of the diagnostic criteria has to do with sensory dysregulation. Now, this is a very important thing because we've never even acknowledged before that our kids have sensory dysregulation and issues with their sensory input. So, it would be important for your child to receive, if you have a child, which many children have sensory issues, it would be important to have that in the child's diagnosis because then whoever's doing intervention or treatment is going to address that. And it's not going to be left, just to its own, which has been the case for years and years. I mean, we've known for many years that kids have sensory issues, and it's only because I really pay attention to the kids' symptoms that we've been doing intervention, but most people don't do anything with that.
Yeah.
So it's very important that the diagnosis actually, it's a better diagnosis. Another feature that's been added is the existence of medical issues. So there's all these other things that bring attention to who the child really is. I would imagine that for parents who have a diagnosis of Asperger's from 2004, it's a little scary because Asperger's doesn't exist now. But DSM-5 does allow you to do the diagnosis as ASD, Asperger's type. So this is kind of a good thing. The other thing that DSM-5 does is that it has a severity factor on both social and on communication. And so if you receive that this year, let's say, and you get a severity that shows high level of severity, let's say a 3, you'd be looking to see if you've improved to a 2 to a 1 next year or the year after and so on, or if you're going in the wrong direction, in which case you have to switch interventions. So it is a better diagnosis, and although it's a headache, it's important. Ultimately, I mean, you've waited, it's now over a year, so it's kind of important to go ahead and get that re-diagnosis.
Okay. Now, so you talked a little bit about some of the possible fears, because what I see as a parent is that, while this is the best possible thing for the best possible treatment, I think that we all know what's driving people to ask us to get the secondary diagnosis is that they want to weed out people who don't need services. And a lot of times, I think there are a lot of people who have probably started ABA. They're seeing progress. They're excited. They know they're not done. They know they need to be continuing on with ABA, and they're afraid if they go and get a diagnosis that this is, in their wildest imagination, their best quality problem, right? That their child may not qualify anymore
Right.
for the diagnosis,
Right.
which doesn't mean their child is fully done
Right.
with their program, but they're going to lose their funding. So
Right.
I know that parents are concerned about that. What advice do you have for us if that's the boat we're in?
The advice, I suppose, is on the one hand, enjoy the fact that your child has gotten to a point where they're not getting a diagnosis anymore. Secondly, a lot of kids will do really well if you have a well-trained speech pathologist. If you're a high-functioning child and you have some language issues, you can also divert to speech, which is covered through insurance. But having said that, because you have the 1, 2, and 3 criteria, the severity levels, it allows you. I don't think that it's going to eliminate children. It's going to still. It's a broader diagnosis. In other words, kids who in the past. Here's a good example. In the past, if you had a diagnosis of PDD-NOS, you wouldn't get regional center funding, right? Now, your PDD-NOS will be a one rating the ASD diagnosis.
Right.
So you will now get it because it's all ASD. If you had Asperger's, you wouldn't get funding. You will now because it's ASD. So, if you're the person diagnosing is kind of aware of all the sides of this, and if they actually follow the rules correctly, the DSM rules correctly, I don't think it's going to eliminate people.
Well,
I wouldn't worry about that.
Well, I think what you've brought up is, I think, the key point, that you need to get the right person doing the diagnosis.
You do.
That isn't tied to the funding, first of all. That
Right.
isn't dependent upon the funding. And I know that CARD has assessment centers that people...
We do. We
but
have
you
an
also
assessment center.
assess.
Yes, of course. I mean, we have an assessment center. You don't need a full. You don't. Okay, so here's if you know a clinician who's been around for a long time, like me, I diagnose. I don't need a tool to diagnose, right? I don't need to administer an ADOS or something to diagnose. I will meet the child, the family, and I will interview them and ask questions and see how the child is behaving, and I will diagnose. So, and that is, I guess, because of the fact that I've been licensed for so many years and in practice for so many years, nobody really questions my diagnosis. An insurance company will not question my diagnosis. If it's a new clinician, if it's a new diagnostician, like a new psychologist, then, BCBAs cannot diagnose, okay?
Right.
So they cannot assess for diagnosis. So you need a licensed psychologist. If it's someone new, I definitely suggest that you get an assessment done, which is an ADOS, or there's other assessments. ADOS is sort of the gold standard at this point, but there's many others that are just as good. And because I don't think that our newer clinicians are able to, they don't know autism well enough. Let's just put it that way. Newer clinicians. So. At CARD, we have licensed psychologists, and they diagnose, and they also do administer ADOS. Our pediatrician, Dr. Copeland, also, because she's not only a pediatrician, but she's a developmental pediatrician, she also diagnoses, and she also administers the ADOS. And we all love to do that. And at our assessment center is in Woodland Hills. Dr. Copeland is in Sacramento. We have several MFTs who are licensed and trained to diagnose. Vince Redmond, who's been on the show many times,
Yes,
can diagnose.
regular.
And I am happy to diagnose, as I was telling you earlier, diagnosing kids, not that it's one of my happiest activities, it's not, but I'm very accurate. And I like to help families. I like to have contact with families, with parents, and be able to explain to them what it means, and make sure that they don't, that their life doesn't depend on a diagnosis. It really doesn't. Yeah. So as I said, I diagnose all day long if I could. And I will be traveling this year.
Okay.
I'll be traveling to all of our sites because of the 25th anniversary of CARD. So I'm going to be in a lot of different locations, and I'm happy if you're a parent who's near a CARD site. contact card at our 800 number and just say, I really want to get a diagnosis. And then I will share with you my schedule so that you'll know when I'm going to be hitting your site, if that's helpful.
Okay.
And I'm sure otherwise there are lots of psychologists who are able to do this as well now.
And I always suggest, if that's the way you're going to go, make sure that you consult. You always have to have two support groups online, one that's local, one that's global. Consult with your one that's local and ask them who locally is
Yes.
somebody who's reputable and not tied to the funding dollars, who might be swayed by some other entity.
Yeah,
Shouldn't be, but I know that
There
sometimes...
shouldn't be. I mean, a licensed psychologist should not, unless they're working for your insurance company, for instance.
Right.
You don't want that. You don't want someone who's working for the funding agency. You basically want a neutral person.
Exactly.
And all of that should be funded because we're all licensed then. So, and I am licensed in numerous other states as well, so I can test everywhere.
Wonderful. All right. So if you want more information about that, make sure you can go to centerforautism.com. You'll find the 800 number there. You can also click on the locations to see what office might be closest to you. We're going to take a short break and be back with more of Ask Dr. Doreen after these messages.
Hi, it's Lisa Ackerman, Talk of Facts, autism journey questions and answers that help you get down the path in your autism journey faster, easier, like the Superman that you need to be, or Supergirl. But on a serious note, one of the most common questions that I get is, what do I do when my child is a non-responder to therapeutics and medical intervention? If you have a child that's a non-responder, know this, and if you've been on the journey for a long time, there's been more research in treatments for autism since 2005 than all previous years combined. So my first recommendation for a kid, for a family that has a kid with a non-responding issue to treatments, therapies, and medical intervention, is to reevaluate the treatments that are available. Start with the basics. Go back and revisit a MAPS doctor. Get all of that baseline testing, or a good neuropsych if you need to look at the therapeutics. Start with the baseline. The second thing families need to know when they are dealing with a child that has non-responder issues is really, you're going to have to scale up. And I mean scale up the time you're spending with your resources to figure out and really become the Sherlock Holmes, to understanding what is going on, what is impeding progress, why aren't things moving forward. You really need to make sure that you have a current MRI and a current EEG. Those two tests are so extremely valuable. Often they will provide clues as to what is going on and what treatments that really could help your child make the best progress they can make. Hey, there's another frequently asked question. Wish I had my magic fairy wand so everybody was a responder. It's in the shop. Maybe I'll get it next time when we get together and talk about Talk of Facts. We'll see you soon.
Welcome back to Autism Live and to Ask Dr. Doreen. Dr. Doreen Grandpichet is here and she is answering your questions live. So you can be writing in on the live feature or on our Facebook. I want to move now to a question that came in on the live feature this morning about toilet training. Hello and good morning. I love the show. We love you too. Can you please get me started on how to go about toilet training my 5-year-old? It's something I really want to start on, but I don't know if my daughter is ready. She communicates with about 10 different signs, but none of them are potty or toilet. Any suggestions would be appreciated.
Yes. It's actually a very easy and straightforward procedure. It doesn't necessarily require that she would sign potty yet. So I'll just do a quick review of it. But I mean, I don't want you to follow this. I think we've listed the procedure in our book. And if not, go on IBT's website, and there's definitely a module about toilet training. Okay. But essentially, the procedure is sort of you start with you take the bathroom that you really want to. I haven't done toilet training in ages, but it's fun. You take a bathroom, which is going to be the location where you want the child to really focus on or go to. And it should be easily accessible. It should be the bathroom that's the closest to wherever the child's kind of hanging out most of the time. And you make that bathroom lovely. You turn that bathroom into Disneyland. You'll put a TV in there if you can, with like the child's favorite videos or DVDs or whatever, books, all sorts of toys, fun stuff, like a beautiful place, right?
It's the place they want to go.
It's the place that they will want to go and they'll love going. It's their reinforcing place. And you'll be treating the toilet as a chair, essentially, and your child is going to be spending a lot of time there. So let's say the day that you're initiating this, the day before, you want to give your child a bunch of salty foods so that the day that this happens, they're going to be drinking a lot of water. They're going to be thirsty. And you'll be giving a lot of salty foods throughout the day anyway, and just like water, 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 because you want urination to happen frequently, more frequently than it would, only because it'll give you a lot of practice time, the ability to practice the skill. So you're in the bathroom and your child will be more or less naked from the waist down during the day when you start. And what you'll be doing is you start in the bathroom and the child is sitting on the toilet essentially you'll wait. And so you're engaging the child and you'll wait until they go, okay? And because of the fact that they're sitting there, they'll ultimately eventually go. And then what you do is when they go, they get to get off the toilet and have some sort of celebration. And who cares what it is? You're giving them their favorite reinforcers that day, whether it's food or whatever they want, they get for going. And then that's the whole idea throughout the day. Now, the key to it is that you start with a longer schedule on the toilet, shorter breaks, and throughout the course of the day that reverses. So you're increasing the duration of the break. So let's say you start with, let's say, we generally don't want to keep our kids off for more than about 10 minutes on a successful potty training schedule. So they're on, it could be 30 minutes, an hour before they want to go, and they're drinking liquids the whole time and they're busy doing other stuff, and you'll have to let them stand and sit once in a while just so there's blood flowing in their legs. Mm-hmm. And then they're off for 10 minutes or 15 minutes maybe, and then they're back on. And you can play with this, and then gradually during the course of the day, the on period will be less and less because the child will, because you're increasing the 10 minutes, going to 15 to 20 to 25, and the child will realize that, as soon as I urinate, I get off. Mm-hmm. And so that kind of becomes a reward for them to urinate and come off. Several things will happen, which is too lengthy for me to go into detail here, but you'll have accidents. It's no big deal. When you have an accident, you help the child clean up, you have them go back on, and you go back to the prior schedule. So you go step back where the child was successful. You always want to keep your child successful. And essentially that's what you do for today. Tomorrow, by the end of the day, you hope to be at a point where your child can stay off for an hour. Possibly. It could even be a half hour, but wherever they get, your goal is that when they go to the bathroom, they know it's for the purpose of urination, and then they're off. And where you want to get by the end of the first day is on a schedule, which means that every hour you take your child. They're not supposed to be telling you, I need to go. You simply take them there. And when they go there, because they've now learned, they've been conditioned that this is what this location is for, they will immediately urinate, and then they'll go out, and then you'll reinforce that. By the second day, you'll take the child basically on the hour. You stay on that hour schedule for a while. And as you're on that 1 hour schedule, then you will, depending on your child's communication abilities, you'll either have them start telling you by saying potty. Every hour you'll say potty, or you want to go to the bathroom, and the child even can echo or imitate what you said, or you could have a little picture of the child and all they have to do is touch it, but you'd have to have that picture everywhere, right? And they touch it in different rooms and so on. And so ultimately the child gets the connection that when I touch this picture or when I say potty, they take me there and then I can go. And so every step of the way, you're giving your child a little bit more autonomy, a little bit more ability to be out there and running around, but it's a backward shaping procedure, and you are gradually fading your control out. It's not it's not like it'll take a while, weeks, maybe months, before the child is able to just simply say, I have to go to the bathroom, and go whenever they want to go. That's not your initial goal. Your initial goal is simply to just have the child void in the bathroom, in the toilet. And you're not dealing with bowel movements right now. You're just focused on urination. So a lot of the other time, like overnight, you'll still have the child in pull-ups or diapers or whatever it is, because you have also not dealt with overnight. So, if you're lucky, you'll also catch a bowel movement. The main thing is you just want to be really celebratory when the child actually voids. That's a big, big deal. And a lot of our kids just enjoy that reinforcer so much, and they connect it to what they just did.
I want to start by saying the difference between behavioral therapists and the rest of us is that when we said to you toilet training, you said, "Oh, that's so fun."
It is
and
fun.
That's the difference.
Yeah,
the rest of us go,
is.
toilet training. Behavioral therapists go, "Oh, this is fun," because you have the confidence that it can happen. And the other thing, and I've told this story before, so I'm going to tell it very briefly, that when we were toilet training Jem, it got so ingrained in us that when somebody urinates, that we go, "Yay!" It's so exciting. That we were in this building upstairs at a clinic, and my husband excused himself from the clinic to go across the hallway to the bathroom, and you can hear everything from those bathrooms in the clinic rooms. And we were there with Jem, with all the therapists, and all of a sudden when my husband was in the bathroom, we heard "Yay!" because we had gotten in the habit of doing that ourselves. That when we would urinate, we'd go "Weepy!"
Yes.
Oh, it just cracks me up.
But
That's how ingrained it became.
It is fun. I mean, I know for parents it's like, oh my God, I got to deal with this.
Oh yeah.
But I used to, when I was a therapist, when I was much younger, and I used to do a lot of therapy, it was my thing. Like, I loved going to people's homes because I'd get the whole thing done in a weekend.
Yeah.
And I was just so happy with myself because, like, oh my God, I knew going in that by the end of this weekend, this child's going to be done,
And it's life-changing.
It's
life-changing for them. It's life-changing for the family.
Absolutely.
It's so exciting when they get it. It's exciting for the child. And I think now, having gone through it successfully, I think if you're not having a good time while you're doing it, you're not doing it right.
But it's a complicated procedure.
It is.
It's not an easy procedure because there's so many other things, Shannon, that happen. For instance, sometimes our kids actually, especially the boys, they'll urinate at you or out because of the attention they get for it. Yeah. So there's a lot of, they could go the wrong path because they're getting attention.
Yeah.
And so I really do recommend that if you're going to be doing a really good toilet training procedure, which we use a sort of a similar version to the Fox and Azrin procedure, I would really suggest that you get a BCBA to help you with this, because it's important. And I am pretty sure that we have instructional modules on IBT's website about this, and I would really recommend it's kind of like watching a YouTube video, so I would really say please do that because it's really important.
Get your ducks all in a row. You'll really want to do that. And again, that's at ibehavioraltraining.com. All right, we're going to take another break, and then we will come back with more questions for Dr. Doreen. Stick with us.
The Institute for Behavioral Training provides courses in applied behavior analysis for the treatment of autism. Access IBT e-learning videos on the move and learn at your own pace.
I'm going to talk a little bit about intensity of
IBT e-learning makes any location your classroom on the go.
So our objectives for today are to really learn what is autism and how is it diagnosed.
Get professional guidance with IBT face-to-face training. IBT face-to-face training courses prepare you to effectively implement ABA-based interventions. Choose between small group and one-to-one instruction. Earn BCBA supervision hours via one-to-one video conferencing.
So I had a chance to review your BIP today. You know what? It looked really good. You did a good job with it.
IBT continuing education courses. Earn credit through webinars, conferences, article reviews, and e-learning videos. You can learn more at ibehavioraltraining.com. IBT, 360 degrees of ABA training.
Welcome back to Autism Live and to Ask Dr. Doreen. We have Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh here with us live in the studio. She's answering viewers' questions. We had a question come in from a viewer. Hi, Shannon and Dr. G. My son is almost 5 and in a typical preschool. He has some language and can trace words but not copy. He will imitate kids when he plays and sometimes initiate. His ABA goes 2 times a week, and I don't know whether that means the ABA goes with him to school 2 times a week or that they're coming home 2 times a week. Sounds like school. She says, she goes on to say, she tells me he is almost at 60% with his goals. He doesn't have disruptive behaviors to others, but has difficulty with staying focused and attention. The teacher says she constantly has to tell him or tap him to get his attention during circle time. He has difficulty with seat work as well. He is easily distracted and not motivated to do his work. They tell me he can be lazy. And she says, LOL. Do you have any suggestions? Thank you for your awesome show. I'm with you. Whenever anybody says that a child with autism is lazy, I go, you have no idea what 'you're talking about.
Absolutely.
These kids work harder than anybody else to be in your world and to do 40 hours of work a week to struggle to be in your world. Anybody else,
I agree.
They have the best work ethic of anybody I know.
There were a lot of symptoms there.
Yes. But very distracted during seat work and circle time. Teachers having to constantly tell him or tap him to get attention. Not motivated to do his work. But a lot of pluses.
I know, absolutely, but I have a lot of questions. So, for instance, why is the teacher tapping him if he has an aide?
It might just be that the aide is only going twice a week.
Right. So, and the child is how old?
5. In a typical preschool.
Typical preschool, and did the parents say anything about his language?
No.
He's tracing but not copying.
He's imitating and sometimes initiating with other kids. So I think the language has to be somewhat there. Yeah. No disruptive behavior, but difficulty with staying focused and attention.
Right. So you talked about a few different things. And some aren't in the email. So one thing is, of course, his language ability is the most important at this point if he's in regular ed school, because we want to make sure that the child is able to interact with other kids. So that is number one. And if you have, so let's assume he's doing pretty well in communication, but has further to go. Then the second area is, you mentioned he's tracing but not copying. That's a really easy skill to teach. I don't know if he has any fine motor issues that need to be addressed, any visual motor issues that need to be addressed, but it's not a difficult transition to go from tracing to copying. So, whoever is working on that with him maybe should be changing their technique. It's not something that's hard. If he has the correct grasp, the pincer grasp, and if he is tracing, it's a gradual procedure. I mean, going to copying, essentially, you just have sections of the word missing. So let's say you're doing an A. What you would do is you'd have a full A, and he's tracing it initially, and then you'd have a full A missing the middle line, let's say, and then now he's writing it himself. So, and you gradually make it more and more so that he's writing it himself. So that's copying. I mean, but that's not a typically difficult transition. His distractibility, welcome to the world of autism. I mean, all of our kids are distractible.
Welcome to the world that we live in with technology everywhere. That I bet if you were to look, some of the neurotypical kids are having problems as well.
Well, absolutely. And I was going to say, welcome to the world of toxic food.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a million reasons that our kids are distractible. There's a million reasons that our kids have high levels of ADHD. And it's funny because for like 10, 20 years, everybody was saying, oh, the ADD diagnosis is increasing and it must be fake. Like, there's so many kids. But part of that is just that there are more and more kids, not that are hyperactive, but that are distractible. And that's the other form of ADHD, which is the distractibility. And it's increasing. And it is partially because they're distracted by technology. I mean, sometimes I go out with my kids and everybody is sitting there with their phones like this, and there's like no social behavior at all anymore. It's okay. It's just just is the new world.
Mom has written in to let us know that he does have 25 hours of ABA at home.
Great.
And he has some language. So I
Okay.
think you hit it right on the head.
Okay,
that
great.
He's got some, but it could progress.
Great. So the number one thing I want to say here, he's 5. 25 hours at home is pretty good. I want to make sure he has at least 15 at school, okay, so that we're hitting 40. I'm not even completely happy with that. My preference would be that it was all at home, you know, but when we hit 5, I know that we have to start going into school. I tend to want, let's assume he's at but this is where I want my kids when they go to school. I don't care about fine motor. I care about social and language. I want to get the social and language under control. I want to get the child to a point where they are interacting with other peers, able to follow instructions with the teacher. And academically, most of my kids, if not all, are not only able to keep up, but they're ahead of other kids. So, you know, the fine motor stuff is easy, the tracing and so on, you should easily be able to teach those things. Make sure that the aide is the one that's working on keeping his attention. If he still needs more direct instruction, make sure it's the aide giving it to him, and then gradually start to get his attention on the teacher. There's many things you can do. For instance, we would, wherever the teacher is standing, let's say on the whiteboard, we would have a little sticker and we would teach our child, you need to be paying attention to the sticker. Another very, very good source for attention is these watchminders. There's watches that you can program that every, I think 10 minutes or so, it'll actually say, look at teacher. And it'll buzz, it'll vibrate on your arm and it'll say, look at teacher, or it'll say anything else you want it to say. You can program it to write that. But your child has to be able to read, or someone can teach your child that whenever it vibrates, you need to look and pay attention. That's an easy thing to teach. That's conditioning. Yeah. It's a bell going off, like a vibrator going off on your child's arm, and then the child being conditioned that every time this vibrates, I should listen to the teacher who's talking and see what she says and understand that. But all of these were just a summary of numerous preparatory lessons. So I sort of, you know, because it doesn't sound like he's a card child. And with our kids, we prepare them with a lot of these different things. There's a lot of language preparation, but then there's a lot of executive functioning preparation and sort of, you know, what are the salient things to pay attention to. We test those things along the way, and it's kind of like, does he have all the school readiness skills? Perhaps you would benefit. It sounds like you've done well in terms of getting him to where he is, and that he has 25 hours at home and he has an aide at school. You definitely want to have an aide at school. What I recommend is that you actually play around with skills a little bit. So become a skills member and do the assessment. You'll be, you know, children like your son are the perfect skills candidates because they're sort of a little bit in the middle, maybe towards the end, but they're in the middle of the whole thing, and you'll see the whole universe of things that you have to teach and what's left and how much time is left. And and it'll guide you. It'll tell you exactly, if you do the assessment, you'll see how far he is all in each area, advanced and delayed. So you'll be able to see where his language is, social, academically, adaptively, cognitively, his executive functioning skills, his play skills, his social, everything. So that'll be wonderful for you. And anything that he's not at age, skills will give you lessons and tell you how to teach them. You know, this year I told IBT, our Institute for Behavioral Training, who also provide our training to our supervisors. I asked their director, Cecilia Knight, to focus on developing skill teaching videos, just a lot of videos for parents, just teaching stuff, you know, all the lessons from skills, actually. So it's kind of like, you know, how do I teach attention? Do we have many, many lessons to increase attention, many, many lessons to reduce distractibility? And so I'd like to be able to kind of produce those videos as well. But right now they're written out in very detailed format. There's small video samples. And there's IEP goals, there's all sorts of resources and skills for you.
And just yesterday, when we were talking about setting priorities, I had suggested to everyone to start getting ready for IEPs now by doing the assessment and skills. So not only will this help you now, but it'll set you up for your IEP that's going to come in a couple of months, so that you're going to get the best possible first grade year with the right goals, because you'll be an empowered member of that team going in. You'll know exactly, you get a great snapshot on skills of where your child is and where they need to get and how to do it.
Absolutely.
Which is amazing. Okay, so then moving on to our next question. Somebody wrote in about starting with skills. Hi, Shannon and Dr. Doreen. How do I get started quickly with skills? My son is turning 5 and has been using the VB map with ABA, and I keep asking them to do skills. I need to train them on how to use it. Is there a video we can watch or someone we can speak to help us get familiar with how to get started with skills as fast as possible? And thank you so much.
Yes.
Now, I feel a little guilty because one of the things that's on my list of things to do is to make this video.
There is a video. There is a training video that Adele did a while ago. So there is a video that kind of shows you how to use skills. But yeah, we did want you to do a more, detailed.
A parent one.
And a more detailed one. I would really appreciate that. I think a lot of parents would as well.
So here's what I want to say to you is that I would like to do a practice session before we do the video. So if you will write to me at s.penrod@autism-live, then I would be happy to get on the phone with you and we can do a share on our computers. And I can very quickly, I could do that this Friday. We could
wonderful.
You and I could walk through it. It would be a good refresher for me for the point of view of somebody starting new, because I've been using it so long. I think I've forgotten what it was like on the first day, so it would be great to do a refresher before I need to get the video together.
That's wonderful, but I mean, essentially what you want to do at this point is once you've registered and put in some demographics, just date of birth and so on, you will go straight to the assessment, and the assessment will generate questions based on your child's age. So if you have a 5-year-old, it will give you, and it doesn't matter, pick any area, it doesn't matter, ultimately you're going to answer all the areas. So they will you'll start getting questions, and there's a lot of questions. So, and the questions are yes or no. And if you don't understand exactly what a question means, just hit the example button, and the examples are very, very good. I always understand the examples.
Oh, yes, it's a world different. And I will say this, I mean, I didn't have a tutorial when I sat down to play with skills. I don't think that everybody needs one. I think we want to be able to give you something so that you know all the ways to use it and to utilize it. But the truth is that anybody could sit down and start using skills.
Absolutely.
I did. And I'm not a tech whiz.
I mean, and essentially the concept with skills is once you've answered all these assessment questions, you've identified what your child can and cannot do at this moment in time. You don't have to be 100% accurate. It doesn't matter, because the system will catch it. Everything in skills is built sort of upon each other. Like, you cannot do an advanced skill if you don't have the precursor skills. So if you say, yes, my child can do the advanced skill, but then you say, no, my child can't do all these precursor skills, the system will just assume he can't fully do the advanced skill and will ask you again later. So don't worry about that. Just answer what you think your child can and cannot do. Everything your child cannot do will then go into a pool that will be connected to a lesson. So whatever he can, and it'll be ordered for you in terms of youth. So the younger skills will be given to you first. And that's it. And then you'll be given a massive supermarket of things you're supposed to teach your child. And the key to it then is picking what you think you can handle based on the hours. One of the things we're building into skills now this year is an algorithm that'll do two things. So you'll say how many hours of ABA you're going to be doing, and it'll give you the number of lessons that we think you could probably do in that period of time. Then it'll also give you a breakdown of how many lessons in each area we want you to do based on what you answered about your child.
Great.
So if you answered all the questions and it shows that your child's biggest deficit, let's say, is not language, it's executive functioning, then we'll have you focus more on executive functioning lessons. If your child is older and you said there's a lot of things in language that are missing, we'll have you do more of that sort of thing.
Okay, we've only got 2 minutes left,
Okay.
and we've got a big long question that's important. So
Sure.
I'm not going to post this because the person gave us their name, but they said, I'm suffering from depression, or at least I think I'm suffering from it. The reason I'm saying this is because I was diagnosed with depression in 2012, and I was diagnosed with high-functioning autism last year. And so so I think the depression has gone away from me, but at the same time, I feel as if it's still there. So what I would like to know, that can autism make a person think that they are still depressed just because they had depression before? How can a person know when they do something that they are stimming or that they have obsessive compulsive disorder? Is there a difference? Basically, everything that I do repeatedly. And so I would like to know, am I stimming or do I have obsessive compulsive disorder? I feel as if I'm living in my own world, and it has gotten to the point where I think I am a retard. And so I would like to know, does retardation share the same qualities as autism? Am I socially retarded?
Oh my God.
I know, big long question that we aren't going to be able to get through the whole thing.
No, but I can give some guidance real quickly. So, no, first of all, retardation has nothing to do with this. If you're concerned about your intelligence, that's what retardation has to do with, then go see someone who can give you an intelligence test, an IQ test.
But
that's
clearly somebody who can write this email.
Yes, exactly. This has really nothing to do with how you're feeling. When you have thoughts of depression, and if you are having some symptoms of obsessive compulsive disorder, it's all related. So let me explain that a little bit. When you have autism, what autism does is that it makes it hard for you to receive information from your environment and process the information the same as other people, as typically developing people. So you might be someone who is a little bit focused on your inner thoughts more, and so having a difficult time receiving information because you're distracted by your inner thoughts. You might be someone who's a little bit anxious. My personal feeling hearing what you wrote is that you're experiencing a little bit of anxiety. You're worried that you have all these things and what's going to happen to you. So you're fearful. And when one becomes worried and anxious, we tend to do repetitive things more because they give us a sense of calm, because they give us a feeling that we have things under control. So what you're doing is you're perpetuating this cycle. So you get worried that, do I have depression? And then you do repetitive things, because that's the nature of all people, is to do repetitive things in order to calm ourselves. Then you actually do reach a level of obsessive compulsiveness, which then depresses you because you worry about that even more. Now, that whole cycle, interestingly enough, the three things that you mentioned, depression, autism, and OCD, are all related, and their connection is anxiety. They all have an aspect of anxiety. Obsessive compulsive behavior is completely an anxiety type disorder. Depression is the internalization of anxiety, and autism, many people with autism have anxiety because they don't feel like they can fit in. So if I have one suggestion for you, is to find a very good psychiatrist, because the medication that's given for all three will benefit all three, is a selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor, SSRI. These are medications like Prozac, Paxil, Zoloft, Luvox, there's many. Those medications work on exactly obsessive compulsive stuff, anxiety related stuff, and depression. So it's the perfect thing for you. And if you enter therapy, psychological therapy, I think it would also help you. It's important to deal with the anxiety and the depression right now and not worry tremendously about the high-functioning autism. The high-functioning autism becomes a factor if it leads to you not being able to have a job or go to school or function in the environment. If you're able to do those things, then you're fine. Your skill level is good enough. It can always improve, but it's not the primary issue. The primary issue right now is dealing with your anxiety. So focus on that, because that's what's leading to all the repetitive stuff.
Okay, wonderful. And we've kept you longer than we planned to, so we thank you so much for being here and look forward to having you back next week.
It's a pleasure. Thank you so much, Shannon.
Thank you. We're going to go right now to The A Word, which is an ongoing documentary being made at the Center for Autism and Related Disorders following a little boy who was diagnosed with autism at the age of 2. We drop in on Jack Riley's family for The A Word to see how he's progressing. After that, we'll be back for Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. Stick with us.
I know a cute little blue-eyed boy, and his name is Jack.
Jack Riley.
He got a big, warm, blue-eyed soul that makes your heart beat fast.
It's my birthday today.
Yeah, can we celebrate our birthdays together? Yeah. Our birthday buddies? Okay. Wear hats. Should everyone wear hats?
We need some more friends for the hat.
Here, you want to give hats to everybody? 1, 2, hey! Yay! One's for Christmas and one's for your birthday, okay? Go ahead, rip it up. Yeah. You know who it is?
Raspberries.
What do you say to Miss Jessica?
You have to look at her eyes too.
Happy birthday, Jessica.
What do you?
But what else do you say? Do you like your gift?
Yeah.
I'm over here. Do you like your gift?
Yeah.
Then what do you say?
So what do you say when you like something that somebody gave you? Hey, I'm over here. Do you say you're welcome, or do you say please?
Please.
What else do you say?
Can I have cake, please?
Say thank you. Say thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm going to take off my hat, so it's not my birthday yet.
Your birthday is tomorrow. You are right. It is not your birthday yet.
Let's making
Check out yours. It's not my birthday.
They are making raspberries.
You're so smart. I'm smart.
Making raspberries.
This isn't the first time Jack Riley's mentioned making raspberries to himself today. He scripted this phrase while he was opening his presents just a few moments ago. Let's watch that again.
Raspberries. Making raspberries. Raspberries. Like making raspberries. They are making raspberries. Like making raspberries.
What are you talking about?
Raspberries.
I don't see any raspberries. I see cars. I see a car. I see a truck.
Jessica redirects Jack Riley to talk about what's present instead of non-functional language. This stereotypical behavior is a common one for kids on the spectrum. Not all kids, though, do it for the same reason. But typically, echolalia is intrinsically reinforcing. It comforts and helps regulate the self because it's a form of self-stimulatory behavior, like hand flapping or body rocking.
Hey, no, Jack Riley. Hey. Stop. What's wrong? Do you need pillow squishes?
Yeah.
Is that what you need? Okay, come on. Let's go do pillow squishes. You just needed some tickles.
Jack Riley has been doing quite a bit of self-stimulatory behavior. He needs some sensory input, so Jessica gives him some tickles and pillow squishes, so he has some socially appropriate alternatives from getting the sensory input that he needs. What Jessica and his therapist need to do is anticipate when he's going to do this and try to redirect it before it even happens.
You was silly.
Let's do this again.
Okay, good talking. Okay.
Welcome to Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. Unfortunately, it's just Shannon today because our lovely, fabulous Nancy Alspaugh-Jackson is under the weather and was going to come here, and I forbade her. Sometimes somebody else just has to say, no, you need to go home and you need to rest. And Nancy, if you're watching this, you need to lay down and rest. Now I've told her off. Because sometimes, people just need that. And I don't need to be sick, nor does anybody here. So she needs to rest. In any case, we're thrilled that you're here with us. You know that we like to start every show with Nancy and I telling you about in the news. Huge story that broke in this last week. Huge new study finding that circumcised boys, the conclusion that they have come to, are more likely to develop autism and ADHD by the age of 10. There are 5 main aspects of this study that have made this, I think, the reason why so many people are talking about it. That, number one, the findings hold regardless of the cultural background, is what they're telling us. They also go on to say in the study that the pain that is caused by the circumcision might be part of what is to blame. It may affect the way the brain deals with stress. Also want you to know that the study looked at 340,000 boys in Denmark between the years of 1994 to 2003. The experts have, in looking at this afterwards, have urged caution, saying, the part of the critique for it is says it might be speculative in nature, and you know what they always say, we need more research to tell us more about this. Now, what you should know is that it finds that it can, their study found that it can double a young boy's risk of developing autism, literally double it, if they have the circumcision before the age of 5. I know Nancy and I were excited to be able to talk about this on the show without, being too personal about my son. I will tell you that we did not participate in this, and that I was very adamant about us not participating in this. But I was telling Nancy the story the other day that when Jem was born, I had to have a C-section because his head was going to be so big. He was a 10-pound baby, and the circumference of his head, they said, you're over the age of 40, it's just not happening, madam. So it was a scheduled C-section, much to my chagrin. And while I was on the table, and I do have, I've talked before about it on the show that I do have an irregular heartbeat, so there were concerns about that. And I started to not feel very good on the operating table as they were taking him, and they had to give an IV of medicine that I didn't particularly want, and I was on morphine for the procedure. And in any case, and it was, I think, before they had cut the cord, I wasn't happy about it. I was saying, I don't want to do that. And the doctor said, you got to be quiet and let me do my job and let me do what I feel is best in this room. Otherwise, we have to knock you out. And then I shut up, right? I don't have that doctor anymore, by the way. In any case, so he did great on his APGAR, 9s on his APGAR, and then they handed him to me, and we didn't put him anyplace else. He was with us for the next couple of days, but he wasn't nursing. And they were getting concerned because a 10-pound baby has to be able to eat a lot to sustain themselves. And in the first 3 days, he lost almost a pound. And it became urgent time that they came in. They brought in the La Leche expert, and it was, you got to get this baby to nurse or else we're going to have to put him on formula, which I did not want to do. And, I knew all about they have to have the colostrum in the first couple of days. I read way too much probably for my own good. So anyway, the La Leche expert comes in, and she started to yell at me, and she said, and he was all wrapped up and snuzzed in my arms, and he just wasn't latching on, wasn't eating, wasn't interested. We were just staring at each other lovingly. And the La Leche woman said, well, it's because you circumcised this baby. He's completely checked out. He's completely, you should not have done that. And yelling at me. And I said, whoa, 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 you need to back up 3 steps because that's not what happened. And she said, it is too. And I said, no. Would you like to check the diaper? That is not what happened. And she unraveled him and saw that, we hadn't done that, and said, well, you're cuddling him too much. He's too sleepy. You got to wake him up. And, whenever somebody asks about, was there an early indication about autism? I go, that was the only thing early on that I was like, I don't know. And she gave me some advice then that I look back on and I think, and the things that you kick yourself for. She said, well, you're singing to him and you're talking to him and it's just too much. You need to let him nurse. And what I would notice is that he would latch on, but if I talked to him and made eye contact, forget it, it was over. He would just stare at me and I would stare at him and we were in love, draw cartoon hearts around it. And she was saying to me, well, then don't talk to him while he nurses. And I always think back on that and think, dang it, that was an opportunity. What I know now about brain development is that kids need to make that connection, and I took that kind of to heart, talked to him plenty any other time, but not while he was feeding, and that was a substantial amount of time. So in any case, I look at this and I think back to her reaction about, you should never have done that, this baby is checked out, this is what we see when babies are circumcised, that they're checked out, and that it's a psychological wound for them, and which I had already heard and opted out of. So Interesting information. There are other reasons to circumcise a child, and there are other reasons not to circumcise a child. I'm sure that you will talk with your doctor about that. I will say that when push came to shove, and while it became a family discussion about whether or not we were going to do it, we asked our pediatrician and my gynecologist, what are the reasons for circumcising? And when you get right down to it, it is so that everybody matches. And I don't know about you, but for me, that's not a good reason to circumcise anyone. I know for some of you, it's a religious concern. But do the research. Look at what the research is showing now. There are other reasons. I know people have talked about, it can cause infections and stuff. I've been told that is simply not the case, not true at all. And even in this report, it talks about the fact that there is the potential for sexual dysfunction and for a loss of sensation. It's interesting to me that our Western world completely is clear about female circumcision, that it is a horrible, horrible, barbaric practice. But when it comes to boys' circumcision, we are often in a much different place. So look at what there is, make the decision for yourself. The experts are urging that this study is early, but remember, we did another study that was done in Denmark last week, and in Denmark, they keep the medical records, and they're a matter of public record, so they are able to sample a much larger segment of the population over a much longer time, much easier. So take a look at that. In any case, so that is our news story for today. I thought we had another one, but we do not. So, and we're running late anyway. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we have a fabulous co-writer and director of an independent film called The Odd Way Home. His name is Rajiv, and I'm not even going to try to slaughter his last name. I'm going to let him tell you what that is. But this is a really interesting film that I urge you to watch. Main character, a young man who is on the autism spectrum, and the unlikely friendship that he makes with a young woman who has suffered a great deal of abuse in her life, and what happens to them. It's The Odd Way Home. So we're going to take a break and be back with the co-writer and director of The Odd Way Home. Stick with us.
When you find out you're having a boy, you always think like, oh, he's going to play football, he's going to do this and that. And then when he's diagnosed, all those things get washed away.
It's like that piece that's always in the back of your mind, where is he? What is he doing? Is he safe?
We really didn't know what we were dealing with. I wish that they could have directed me a little bit more and provided me some information.
I was a young mom. I didn't know what it was like to raise a boy, despite a boy with autism.
Hundreds of thousands of families are not getting the help they need for their children with autism all around the country. ACT Today is determined to bridge the gap. These families really have to go through a lot to get a grant. The application process isn't easy. The records, the diagnosis proof, they're really battling for their kids. So when we can give them a grant, it is so wonderful to see that they succeed in getting that help for their children. Our founder, Dr. Doreen Grant-Pichet, is an amazing woman, and she is one of the world's foremost authority on behavior of children with autism. She's extremely knowledgeable, and she oversees every single grant we give. She is part of that process. People may think of autism care and treatment as simply schooling or therapy, but we provide important safety supports, things like fencing, for example. The whole family's living in fear of that child running out into traffic. I recently delivered an iPad to a little boy with some of the apps that are out there for children with autism. Miracles happen.
I got the iPad from ACT.
From ACT,
What did it say? Can you repeat that, Dustin?
I got the iPad from ACT.
We have helped so many military families, and when I think of these brave families that are fighting two battles, one to protect our country and one for the right treatment and care for their children, it breaks my heart, and I think we have to do more as a nation to help them.
There's not a day that doesn't go by that we don't think about it. Some people say, oh he's normal. You don't see the battles that I see every single day. My husband does have to deploy, and when they get on that bus, that might be the last time that my kids ever see them.
So I called and they informed me that he had received the grant, which was like a blessing from above. I was just like speechless. I just started to cry because, you know, without it, we would have been lost.
The ACT grant was a total miracle. Without that, we wouldn't be able to receive the service dog. So we're so appreciative what they've done for us as a family.
Recently, ACT Today funded a program for military children with autism in San Diego, the Inclusion Films program, which is run by Joey Travolta and teaches kids on the autism spectrum literal filmmaking skills. They learn how to make a movie.
Are we ready? There you go, got it. Okay. Everything that goes into the process of making a film goes into everyday life. So they're learning life skills, they're learning to collaborate.
It was really nice to know how much they were enjoying this camp, and they're with people who are supporting them and are making them feel great about themselves and their differences and their similarities. And I get two kids that are working together and apart and together and apart, so it's an interrelationship as well as a camp and a learning experience.
It's so fulfilling when I get letters. One stands out for me, a boy who was 14 with Asperger's, and we gave him a grant to go to a drama camp. He wrote to us and said, "Dear ACT Today, thank you for letting me belong for the first time in my life." These kids are remarkable. You know, we underestimate them. They're so knowledgeable, they're so capable, and we can change the life of a family, which means changing the life of a community.
Welcome back to Autism Live. We're so excited because joining us via Skype right now, we have independent filmmaker. He is the co-writer and director of a fabulous film called The Odd Way Home. I'm going to let you, his name is Rajiv, but I said before the break I'm not going to slaughter his last name. So Raj, tell us how we pronounce your last name.
It's Nirmala Kondon.
Okay, beautiful last name, but I have a feeling I would turn it into a comedy routine. And you are a writer and a director. You graduated from the UCLA Film School of Film. And this is a lovely, luscious film. And the reason why we're talking about it here on Autism Live is because one of your main characters is a young man who is on the autism spectrum. In watching it, I tell you what, there was an element of it. Have people said it's like the Thelma and Louise of a new generation? Has anybody said that to you?
Actually, a few people in some of our audience reactions at festivals across the country, I think one or two people mentioned comparison, which, you know, it's a wonderful comparison.
Well, I'm glad you like the comparison because, you know, it's a road film in some respects, and it journeys through a lot of that same area of the country that Thelma and Louise did. But the relationship, it centers around the relationship between these two unlikely survivors, this young man who's on the spectrum and this young woman who is played by Rumer Willis and played beautifully, who's really been through quite a bit of abuse in her life. Where did the idea for having these two people come together to take it on the road, where did that come from?
I was actually asked by a colleague of mine, this was probably 5-6 years ago, to do a documentary on families with children with autism in Houston. And at that point, you know, I was a clean slate. I didn't really know much about autism. I have no one in my family that has autism. But upon getting involved in this documentary, I was profoundly touched by these children and these families. I believe there were 5 families from different economic backgrounds and different stages, different of development. And it was really eye-opening for me because we all know about autism pretty much from what we hear in the media or, you know, Rain Man and stuff like that. And when I actually interacted with these children, there was this light, this energy, and this joy feeling that was coming from them, because they weren't encumbered by the autism themselves. They were just living their lives. And it's all of us that put the title on these children. And some of them obviously were, very limited communications. And some of them were high functioning. And but all of them had just this energy about them. And that's where came up with the idea. So then I was really moved by telling a story similar to one of these children. And then I had met a lot of women in LA when I lived there with such dysfunctions as Maya in the film, with abuse and addiction. And I love New Mexico, it's where I'm from. I love road trips, so I kind of put everything out together, shook it around, and came up with the initial idea for the story. And then I teamed up with a friend of mine, Jason Ronstadt, and we wrote the script together.
Well, and we really need to say that this is not an audience that's geared towards the autism community. This is, a feature-length film. It's great storytelling. It's a lovely film. This is appropriate for, anyone, not just in the autism community, but it has really been embraced by the autism community, and I think there are some really good reasons why, because it is, first of all, a lovely portrayal of a young man who's on the autism spectrum. Chris Marquette does a beautiful job. And the friendship that blossoms between these two people, and this idea of what I got from it is, what Lance might think is broken isn't necessarily the case. And how somebody gets through feeling broken and coming to the other side of that is sometimes a surprising and beautiful, sometimes messy, but a beautiful journey. And to see these two people find that together, it's really uplifting, and I think puts autism in a really great light, and one that's accurate. So I know that people like Holly Robinson Peete, Joey Travolta, a long list of autism dignitaries, Stephen Shore, have embraced this film. What has been your reaction to that?
I've been really touched, because one of the main things when I set out to make this film was I wanted to create a character who was authentic and real and textured, and I wanted those who interact with young folks with autism to really embrace this character and say, this is real. And so we've screened this film at film festivals across the country, and the audiences have been comprised of just, your general audience, but also families who have folks in their families with autism. And they always come up to me, and they just love the character of Duncan, and they were moved by how realistic he was, and how they could really connect with this character. And for me, what I wanted to show was, here's someone with autism. And just because someone has a diagnosis doesn't mean he has to be cloistered away or protected. And in fact, in our film, we have two characters. And it's not Duncan who needs saving or protection. Even though he has autism, he's living his life. And in fact, he ends up saving her life and giving her a whole new chance to blossom into this new person because of the interaction that she has with him.
Yeah, it's
so
very inspirational.
He serves a fundamental role in saving her life.
Yeah.
So I really wanted to show that.
And I think you did a brilliant job of it. Now, you talked about how you prepared and met with individuals on the spectrum and with their families to write it. What kind of work did you do as a director with the actor for him to portray Duncan so beautifully?
Well, for one, there's so much of it was already on the page, the characterisms and things he would say and his behaviors. But we spoke in length, from everything I learned, about certain things he can do, certain things he cannot do. And we didn't want to let the story dictate his behavior. We really wanted his behavior to stay constant throughout the film. And Chris actually knows a family friend who has a child with autism. So he spent a lot of time with his family. So he had come into it already with a real keen understanding of the attributes and behaviors of someone who could be on the autism spectrum. At the same time, we went into it with the understanding that, when I spoke with Temple Grandin several years ago, she said, when you meet a person with autism, you meet one person with autism.
Absolutely.
Because they all have such different attributes and layers and characteristics, and they're so unique. So we couldn't make some sort of a cookie cutter person with autism. We really tried to grab so many different behaviors and mannerisms and the way he would react. And once we formed that in our heads of who Duncan is and how he behaves, we just were very careful during every scene, every moment in the film to think about, okay, would Duncan behave this way?
Yeah.
How would he react to this situation?
There's a really beautiful moment in the film that I so appreciated, and I don't want to give too much away because we want people to watch this. In a second, we're going to tell them how they can. But someone has said something about Duncan and his life, and there's a moment when he takes ownership and stands up and says, I am different, my life is different, and it's okay, and I like how my life is. It's a very powerful affirmation, I think, for anybody who's a part of the autism community who has struggled with, what is this life for them? It's a very powerful moment in the film, and I'm wondering if, where that moment came from. Did you hear that from the autism community, the people that you talked to, about how much that moment encompasses what the autism community goes through?
Yeah, I've met over the years so many different individuals with autism, from really young children to, ones that are in their late 20s and early 30s. And I don't recall exactly where that moment came from, but, these were all moments that I had seen and heard and experienced. And obviously some of the folks on the spectrum don't have that self-reflexive ability to see who they are and what they are and where they are. But there are some who I met. They understand that they have this thing called autism, and they've come to terms with it. And that's important whether you have autism or not. All of us have some sort of disability, and we just have to come to terms with it and accept it. And so this is who we are. Now we're going to move forward and do the best we can with what we have.
It's a powerful, powerful moment, and it's a lovely, lovely film. So now that people have heard about this and they think, oh my gosh, I really want to see this, how can they see this film?
So right now it's available on several platforms. It's on iTunes for rent or purchase. Same thing with Amazon. It's on DirecTV. I believe it's also on Walmart.com for purchase. And soon it'll be on Hulu. Our website is theoddwayhome.com, where you can see the trailer and some information. We have a Facebook page, so please visit it. There's photos and information. Like our page, and we'll keep updating it with more information of where else they can see it. And so we really, it's an independent film. Audiences love it, and when I screen it in theaters, people laugh. It's like they really go on a road trip, in Mexico with these two people.
It's a rich, multi-leveled film with it's great storytelling. And are you still doing screenings? If there's an autism organization who'd like to do a screening, is it something that you'd be interested in?
We are open to all kinds of discussions like that. We want to. It's an independent film. We don't have the marketing budget of Transformers, so everything has to be through word of mouth and social media. So if you love it, please tell your friends. If you want to do a screening, if you want to do some sort of fundraiser tied to the movie that would help an autism chapter, we would totally be open to that discussion.
Okay.
And you could contact us on our Facebook page.
Well, you've got a pretty impressive cast, I've got to say. Rumor Willis, very exciting to see her doing such amazing work.
Yeah, she was amazing.
She's got all the right genes, and they all came together right. She's a good little actress, and of course Chris Marquette, who we've seen in a lot of things, he is a tour de force in this film.
Yes, he is, definitely.
Well, Raj, we thank you so much for being with us and for giving us more information about this wonderful film, The Odd Way Home. We really want to recommend this to our autism families. This is something that's worthwhile to sit and watch. You'll enjoy it for the storytelling and to see this kind of a relationship blossom. You have not seen this movie before. This is a different kind of film, and it's truly lovely.
Thank you so much for those kind words, and thanks for having me on today.
We're thrilled. Please feel free to come back and let us know what you're working on next.
Okay, we'll
All
do.
right, take care.
Bye-bye.
We're going to take a break, and we're going to be back with more of Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy after these messages.
Skills is an online program that provides assessment, curriculum, positive behavior support planning for challenging behavior, and progress tracking, and it does this all in one place. The skills assessment and curriculum addresses 8 areas of development, which even includes advanced higher level areas such as executive functions and cognition, which pretty much makes skills the only ABA-based set of curricula for teaching more complex skills, things like problem solving, planning, self-management, perspective taking, and even inferring and predicting others' private events. Skills is a 4-step system. Step 1 is to add the child to your account. Step 2 is to start assessment. The skills assessment is the only ABA-based assessment with psychometric research demonstrating the language subscale to have excellent reliability. Every area of human functioning and typical child development from infancy to adolescence was researched, making the skills assessment the most comprehensive of its kind in the world, and we're quite proud of that.
Skills is easy to use. Simply click Start Assessment and begin answering questions. Or simply type in a keyword, find specific activities to assess, and add activities to treatment. Step 3. Choose activities. Once you've completed the assessment, Skills selects from a pool of 4,000 activities categorized by age, level, and skill type to provide you with exactly those activities each child needs. Start by choosing a curriculum, then a lesson, and finally an activity. Click the information icon to view prerequisites, ages in which targets develop, examples, and IEP goals. Click the video icon to watch a short video. Once you've identified an activity you want to teach, adding activities to treatment is a snap. Step 4. Start treatment. Here you can access customizable activity lesson details, add your own customized targets and exemplars, and edit an activity status such as introducing or mastering it. You can even print handouts such as worksheets, tracking forms, visual aids, and other materials. Skills also offers multiple progress charts mapping curriculum progress, lesson progress, and cumulative number of activities and targets mastered over time. The Skills language curriculum is categorized by verbal behavior type so that users can identify progress for verbal operants, such as echoics, mans, tax, and interverbals.
Skills is one of the only programs that provides the ability to write behavior intervention plans, or BIPs, for challenging behavior.
With just a few clicks, the outline of the behavior intervention plan is written for you and ready to be printed and implemented.
You can learn more about Skills today and get started by visiting us at www.skillsforautism.com, or you can call us at 877-975-4559. Skills. Progress starts here.
Welcome back to Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. I so love talking to Raj. I think it's incredible when we have filmmakers who are interested in learning more about autism and portraying it accurately on the screen, whether it's the little screen or the big screen, right? That's a very exciting thing. And in the last couple of years, we've had several filmmakers come on, and I get very excited because this is how you whittle away. I know it's important that that we spend money on research. It absolutely is, and I always applaud Autism Speaks because they do spend a certain amount of money on awareness, and I think that that's important. But I think this gets it done faster when we see somebody portrayed in a positive light, and you will see that in this film, The Odd Way Home. So I encourage you to watch that. All right, moving on, there are a couple of things that are coming up that I promised Nancy that we would talk specifically about, and I know she's sorry that she's not here to talk with us about it, but okay, there are, we're going to talk briefly about Stars and Strikes, though, and Kelby was just talking to me. So Stars and Strikes, there are only 3 major fundraisers that Autism Care and Treatment puts their time and energy into a year. Of course, there's Denim and Diamonds, which we just experienced back in October. And then in January, there is always this lovely, lovely event, Stars and Strikes. And then in April, they have the fun run for military families. We're going to talk about that in just a second. But right now, I want to talk about Stars and Strikes because we're only a week and a half away from it. So it's Sunday, January 25th. That is a week from this Sunday. It is going to be at the Bowlemore Lanes, which is in Anaheim, at the Anaheim Garden Walk. Beautiful, beautiful place. And the actual physical address is 321 West Catella Avenue. It's practically around the corner from Disneyland. So again, it's in Anaheim, California, the Bowlemore Lanes, 321 West Catella Avenue. So it's happening from 5 to 8:30 p.m. It's called Stars and Strikes. And basically, it's an opportunity to bowl with some of the most amazing sports stars in particular. There are other stars of television and screen as well, but sports stars there. If you have a sports lover in your family, this is the event that you want to go to. Eddie Guadardo, who is a former Major League Baseball pitcher, and his wife are the co-sponsors of this event, and it is amazing. It's a small event. You get an opportunity to bowl, to rub elbows with these sports stars. The sports stars are there, and they know that everybody wants a photo op. You get an opportunity, to meet and greet and take pictures. But again, it's a small event. There are only a couple of opportunities to purchase lane space, but there are lots of ways that you can participate in this. So again, Stars and Strikes, if you visit the Act Today homepage and click on the link that is Stars and Strikes, you can find out more information. You can still register if you have a business who wants to sponsor a lane. You can absolutely do that. But again, if you have a sports lover, I always feel like, for me, I don't know who anybody is sports-wise, but I have friends that this is the biggest deal in the world to get to, bowl on a lane next to a major league pitcher. And Eddie really is so great about getting his friends to participate, not just former Major League Baseball players, but current Major League Baseball players. So encourage you to participate if you can and want to. Stars and Strikes, they're going fast, so it's something that you need to act on fairly quickly. Remember that Act Today, Autism Care and Treatment Today, their website is act-today.org. We talk all the time. We get families who write in and say, I need an iPad, I need a tracking device, I need an advocate, I need help, I need a grant. And Act Today is the only organization of its kind that is what they do. They give grants to families. They're national, not just in California. They're absolutely national. They give grants to families for the things that the families need. That is what they do, but they never have enough money to fulfill all of the grants. So many people who need iPads, who need other assistive technology, who need support. So any way that you can support them is truly welcome. Now, moving on to that, I want to talk a little bit about the fun run that they do for autism, this event that happens in April. And Kelby, is that the thing that we have the clip of now? Okay, so we want to let Kelby to run the clip so that you can see what the fun run was like last year. My son actually ran, that was his first run last year at the ATMF. So Autism Treatment for Military Families Fun Run. Take a look at this and then we'll come back and talk about how we want you to participate this year no matter where you are. So take a look.
Well, today is the One Hope Act Today for Military Families 10K and 5K Run, Walk, and Family Fun Festival.
Thanks for coming out to support this awesome cause.
What I'm trying to accomplish here is to get more people involved, more people to be aware of autism as a disorder so that they can be more involved in this effort to help people find resources.
Pull that belly button in, get a nice balance there.
This is an incredible event. I'm very passionate about it. Autism is affecting so many kids across the United States, and I also support our military. 1, 2, 3, 4.
My name's Gunnery Sergeant Sean Tajma.
working with the School of Infantry West. I'm currently running with 1st Light Armored Reconnaissance Battalion. I'm personally involved with this because my son Jacob has autism. I just want to say thanks to ACT Today for what they're doing to help my family and other military families with autism.
Here we go, let's hear it for the 2nd Light Infantry.
Some of the main sponsors here, of course, One Hope Wine is the title sponsor.
What we do is we donate 50% of our profits back to different partner charities, one of them being ACT Today that does a fantastic job.
ACT Today is very dear to my heart because when my husband was deployed, they were there when we didn't know how we were going to make things happen. They give so much to the military family, and it comes at a time when you just don't know how you're going to make ends meet. So to me, it's more than just an event, and it's more than just a grant. It's a gift.
All right, you guys, have we gone over the rules?
Thank you all to the teams, to the individuals that donated to this fantastic cause out here again this year. The event got larger.
People ask me why military families with autism. Why does ACT Today have that as a special program? I'll tell you why. Because our military families should not have to fight two battles. One, to protect our country, and another, to get services for their children. They move so often. Every time they move, they have to start again. We owe it to them. And it just was a tremendous success. So I just want to say thanks to everybody for taking part in it.
Check this out, Marine. See all these wonderful people? All you gotta do next year, Marine, Devil Dog, 2-400, sign up with me, staff or an email, and I'm gonna take you out here, do a little 5K, little PT early in the morning. After that, you're gonna have the time of your life. After that, I might even be able to get you a letter of appreciation, maybe a little libo time. How's that sound?
Sign up for next year because this is an event that comes on and on. It's a win-win situation here.
Welcome back. Wonderful, wonderful event. So that was last year's. And I said as the kids were running after the Easter eggs, my kid's in there somewhere, and I saw him for just a brief second. Okay, so let's talk about what this event does and why it's so important and some of the fun things about it, okay? This year it's happening on March 28th, Saturday, March 28th. Now, just to put it in perspective for you, this year Easter's on April 5th. So it's happening, normally it happens in April, it's happening the weekend before. So I would imagine that they'll probably be doing the Easter egg hunt again because it was so much fun last year and the kids so enjoyed it. There are several different runs that take place on that day. There's a 10K, I believe there's a 5K, and then there's the fun run for the kids. That's a much smaller run, and my son participated in that. So much fun. It was the first time that he did it this year, and I'll tell you what, we're going to do it every year, and I encourage you to get your kids to run either at this event or some other event because he wasn't sure he wanted to do it. And when we've gone in previous years, he said, no, I don't want to do that. It was such a big deal to him to run with the other kids, and at the end, he got a medal for running, and it reinforced it. It's that thing we talk about all the time about wanting to reinforce the behaviors we want to see more of, and so he got a t-shirt and he wears it very proudly to school, and there's a picture of him with his medal and his t-shirt. Oh, let me tell you, he's all about it. He's like, I want to do another run. So I really encourage you to have your kids participate in this kind of thing. Now, this particular event, it happens in San Diego, and I know that not all of you can get to San Diego, but here's the brilliant thing this year. They're encouraging you to be a virtual runner, and here's why. We have so many of our military families here in the United States that have kids on the autism spectrum. And I'm going to try really hard not to cry, but if you stop and think about everything that you and I have gone through as parents and all the trials and tribulations and having to overcome all of the things that we have overcome, I want you to know that the prevalence in our United States military is significantly higher than the general population. That means that more of our military families are dealing with autism than the rest of us who are in civilian life. So already this is a problem for me. But then on top of that, you and I have the wonderful ability, if we're lucky, that we have a job, first of all, right? But that we have the ability to say, I can't come in today because I've got to take my child to this appointment. Our military, that is not an option. It just isn't. And we know where our job is going to be and when it's going to be. And for our military, they don't know that. They are on a general basis, they move every 2 years. Imagine if you had to move every 2 years, and not just across town, right? If you had to move across the world and be in a new place where the rules for autism are significantly different, where you have to stand in line to get services again and go through all the renegotiation of what's going to happen at the school to everything else, and it's not really within your control, right? Then you can feel the anxiety mounting. But then on top of that, let's say that one of the parents may have to be someplace else where they cannot be in the home for perhaps 8 months to a year at a time, and while they're away, have the potential to be in harm's way. Need I say more? These families have stepped up for our families. They are there to help us and to keep world peace going. They deserve, as do all of our kids, the ability to get the services that they need to. But the truth of the matter is that for our families that are military families, it is usually significantly harder for them to access services. And keep in mind, I know that a lot of you are doing insurance right now and you're struggling with how to pay the copay and how difficult it is. And in some cases, you've fallen behind on your payments to your provider that you have to make that in order to meet your deductible or to make your copay, and it's weighing on you and it's horrifying. Know that for the military families, if they get behind and if they get turned into collection, that is grounds for being court-martialed if they get into collections and get behind on their treatments for their child. So these are people who are in need. They are absolutely in need, and I am proud of ACT Today that they have a separate fund that is just for our military families, and the lion's share of the money that they raise for that fund comes from this event. So this is a great reason to participate this and be a virtual runner. Now, something that they're doing a little bit differently this year is that they're wanting to have every single state of our great 50 states here in the United States represented by at least one runner. And to that end, they are offering incentives for if you are the first person from your state to register. I know Nancy was going to be here to talk about what the incentives actually are, and I've fallen down on the job and I can't tell you, but I know it's worthwhile. You want to be the first person from your state to register to be a virtual runner. And what does it mean to be a virtual runner? It means you're not going to be there to see all the wonderful military eye candy that's there, but you are going to be a part of participating. You will get sponsors to, you will participate by paying a registration fee, which will go towards those military families, and you can also get people to sponsor you for your run where they donate money as well. You can do all of this online. Want to let you know where you need to go to register, and I know that I have it because I promised Nancy that I did have it. Okay, and so here it is, www.acttodayformilitaryfamilies.kintera.org, and Kelby's got it up there for you as well. acttodayformilitaryfamilies.kintera.org. That's where you want to go to begin to register. Be the first person in your state and you will have won something. Can't tell you what, but you will have won something. Now, you can also find more information about this part of ACT Today by going to acttodayformilitaryfamilies.org. Where you can find out more about all the things that they do and grants that they've given in the past. And you can also visit them on their Facebook page, facebook.com/ATMF Run and Festival. So that's where you can find it on Facebook. Really, really remarkable. There is a timed 5K, 10K run walk. There is a 1 mile fun run open to children and adults. There are custom bib numbers. I'm telling you, the kids love that. They put the number on. There are t-shirts and age division awards. There's finisher medals for all participants, which the kids love. That's so reinforcing. Prizes for top fundraisers and top teams. Family festival with live entertainment and resource fair, which is wonderful. Children's activities including bounce houses, face painting, arts and crafts, and games. There is a beer and wine tent. One Hope Wine typically is a sponsor. I don't know yet whether they are this year, but they are amazing and put on a truly tremendous beer and wine tent that's remarkable. And then there is a quiet zone that is staffed by ABA therapists. In fact, they are usually from CARD. CARD usually donates therapists to be there. It's a great time. There is no reason not to go unless you physically can't be there. And if you can't physically be there, you can participate and make a difference in real people's lives. There, you know, the flyer that you will find that's on the website that's available for this, there are places where you can see what some of the grants have done for these families. I just want to read this one that's here on the flyer. Dear Act Today for military families, there are no words to describe the appreciation we have for Act Today and the members of your organization. As the recipients of a grant for our 2 daughters, we were able to pay for a fence for our home. One of our biggest worries was that the yard was not fenced. Having a child that works hard to escape and has wandered away numerous times, fencing is not having fencing is, they say fencing is not an option. Not having it is not an option. It is a necessity. We worried about how to take on the large expense, but knew that there was not too much we could do. As most of you know, we do what we have to protect our children. Act Today awarded us with a grant for $2,525 to provide fencing for our home. It was an amazing blessing. We hung up the phone in shock that it actually happened. There are angels on this earth. We never know the form they are going to take, but we know through the kindness of strangers that they are there. Every day we experience so many trials, it's hard to remember good things are still happening. The organization is one of those good things. May God continue to bless you and all you do for individuals and families with ASD. You know, this is a member of our armed services. So I just want to say to you that that money didn't pop up from thin air. It got raised through somebody's hard work. And Act Today does have a very small staff that works very hard. But every little bit that you and I do to support them and to bring funds in makes the difference. That's what makes that $2,525 possible, not just for this family, but for so many other families. Again, I remind you that autism has a higher prevalence rate for our children who are sons and daughters of our military families. So we really hope that you'll participate with that. Make sure that you visit, again, that website is www.acttodayformilitaryfamilies.kinterra, KINTERA.org. We are almost out of time. We don't even have time for a break, do we, Kelby? Okay, I got all emotional and I got all drippy. Okay, so I hope you'll participate in that and be a virtual runner. It doesn't take a great deal of time or energy. And you know that I always talk to you on the show about when you're feeling down in the dumps and feeling like, man, everything is off the rails for you, one of the things that you can do to get it back on track is do something for somebody else. And if you're sitting there and thinking, I need some help, I need some support, I want you to reach out and ask for it, right? You can apply, whether you're military or not, you can apply for a grant from Autism Care and Treatment Today. But while you're doing that, let's say you need a grant for $2,502 for a fence yourself. Here's what I would ask you to do. Fill out an application for a grant so that you can get that $2,502. But in the meantime, register to be a virtual participant in this run. And if you raise $20, then you'll have been the part of a part of someone getting some money, and it may even be you. It's a great thing to do. It'll make you feel good about yourself. Action breeds hope. And hope's my favorite 4-letter word. Okay, want to talk to you briefly about what's happening tomorrow here on the show. We've got a big, exciting show for you. We have been looking at 2014 and all the questions that we didn't get answered. We're continuing with the questions that come in 2015, but tomorrow we welcome back to the show for the first time this year, Dr. Adele Nadowski is going to be with us. She's going to be talking about how to set priorities on things that we want to work on, but we're going to get her to answer some of the questions from 2014 that didn't get answered. And then we'll have Dr. Jonathan Tarbox. He's going to be answering questions from both 2014 and 2015. So crucial that at this moment in time, you guys be writing into us and telling us the kind of programming that you want to see this year, because we're locking it down. The next couple of days, I got a big meeting this afternoon, a big meeting on Friday. We're locking down what the shows are going to be, and we're adding a bunch of programming. So I want to hear from you. What do you want to see? What do you need to see? What would you like to see happening here on this show? Remember that your voice is the largest voice in my head. So tell us what you need. Tell us what you want. Tell us what's on your wish list for things to be covered on the show. And who knows, I might be able to make it possible. I don't know. I can't guarantee that because I don't know what you're wishing for. But tell me. I always say to you, I gave up mind reading to be an autism mom. So don't expect me to read your mind. I just can't do it anymore. I thank you so much for the privilege of being here with you. We want to give our best wishes out to Nancy Alspaugh-Jackson, that she have a speedy recovery. This flu is just, take the legs right out from under you. So we hope that she's feeling better and will be back with us next week, because I miss her. But in any case, I want to say to all of you, thank you for being here with us. We'll be back tomorrow. Until then, give your kiddos a hug from me. Bye-bye for now.